This fox did not waste any time assessing the situation. A long duel, running around the opponent. He was hungry and immediately attacked the snake. He jumped at the enemy, dodged the counterattack, and only increased the pressure. The fox took a risk, but he was pretty lucky. The reptile did not expect such a sudden attack, missed the decisive blow, and became a dinner for the red predator. The beast quickly tossed the snake, and without the opportunity to push off with its belly from the ground, it lost maneuverability and became confused. The cunning and determined predator took advantage of this. The stunned snake collapsed at its feet to become dinner for the fox, who quickly finished off the opponent. A huge anaconda attacked a calf in Brazil. The snake clung to the victim with its powerful jaws. But the reptile underestimated the prey here. The calf retreated into a very narrow passage between wooden beams. After the first bite, the next step for the anaconda is to defeat its opponent is to capture its whole body in contracting mighty rings. But in this narrow place, the snake could not use this technique. She has to cling to the calf, which moves further and further away from the exit. The reptile did not expect this. She has no venom, and the snake can cling to its prey, but there will be no effect from this. A man who witnessed the attack and the owner of the calf came to the rescue of this animal. He began to pull the huge snake by the tail. She had not expected this either. Most likely, the anaconda will crawl home to the jungle hungry if, of course, the person lets it go. What would you do in his place? Let us know in the comments. We are very interested. When a snake loses a fight to a predator, at least it's understandable. But here, the venomous reptiles are simply humiliated by a variety of ungulates. The farmer was shocked when he noticed how the cow was calmly eating the snake. The reptile is probably even more shocked, but there was nothing it can do. The cow started with the tail, but the snake simply did not have time to reach it for a counterattack and bite with venomous teeth. Here, the bull came to the aid of this relative, on whose back a snake crawled. Did the reptile think that no one would care to touch it because of the warning color? She was wrong. The bull calmly picked up the opponent with its lips and chewed the snake's head before it could do anything about it. Grab your head to immediately deal with the enemy, or bite the tail to paralyze the enemy and to prevent him from biting himself. Why do we need all these tricks? The calf just caught the snake and started chewing it right in the middle of the body. The reptile could reach out and bite him, but because of the quick work of the jaws, the ungulate manages to knock down all attempts by the snake to counterattack. By the time the reptile realized what was happening, her spine had already been broken. This donkey here caught a snake and immediately set to work. He jerked his head, worked his jaws at the same time, and in a few seconds dealt with the venomous reptile. If she had reached out to the donkey and bit it, the toxin would have stopped the ungulate's heart in minutes. But the donkey acted too decisively. Snakes are really incredibly flexible, but the reptile could not quickly strain the muscles of the spinal region so that from such an uncomfortable position it could make a well-aimed throw. In addition, the donkey stunned the enemy with sharp movements of the head, pulled him, and knocked down the attack. And when, just a few seconds later, the herbivore's teeth reached the enemy's spine and ground it, the snake had absolutely no chance left. The donkey's teeth are blunt and flat, but the jaws are incredibly strong. He snacked on a snake just like a jelly bean. Why do herbivorous animals eat snakes? It's hard to say, but apparently it happens almost by accident. The ungulate grazes and discovers a reptile in the grass. A venomous snake can attack and bite right into the nose. The natural reaction is to strike a blow that the snake will not survive. In addition, although these animals are herbivores, they can diversify their menu with animal food and regularly eat various insects along with grass. So these aren't really unique cases, but for snakes, of course, this is always a surprise. That's probably why they lose. They delay the attack until the last moment until it is too late. Why, with all the varieties of toys, do domestic cats still like boxes the most? That's the answer. It turns out that the box can play the role of a real fortress and help save kittens from terrible danger. A cobra has entered the human habitat. She noticed a cat who had set up a nest in a box where she had recently given birth to kittens. The kids haven't opened their eyes yet and are completely helpless. The snake can smell them and wants to swallow them whole. But as soon as the cobra crawls up to the box, the cat gives it a lightning rebuff. The female uses the sides as walls that slow down the enemy's advance. The cat has covered the kittens with her body and delivers several fast, powerful, and deafening blows to the cobra right to the head. Of course, this is a risk because even a snake can bite an opponent with its teeth. Then the neurotoxin will stop the cat's heart in a few minutes. But this does not happen due to the reaction speed and accuracy of the cat. After each blow, she returns her paw back, hits from the other side, and prevents the snake from crawling into the box. The cobra has to retreat. What is it in the paws of a cute raccoon? Yes, it's a venomous snake. The reptile did not expect such pressure from a furry opponent. She tried to fight and bite him with her venomous teeth, but the agile raccoon overpowered the reptile in a matter of seconds. You gotta admit, you don't expect such feats from this little fuzzy creature. The snake is also in shock. But it turned out that the paws, which are great for holding fruits, are also able to grab a snake, well, dodge its retaliatory attacks, and strangle the reptile. Wildlife researchers were shocked when they discovered these opponents, who were forever frozen in confrontation. A huge adult python attacked an antelope from an ambush. His tactics are simple and consist in creeping up to the victim unnoticed or setting up an ambush for a surprise attack. Of course, a python cannot chase its prey. But like other snakes, it rushes at its prey with lightning speed, bites it, and then throws rings all over its body to strangle it. With this gazelle, the snake tried to pull off the same trick, but did not know who it was dealing with. During the intense confrontation, the ungulate managed to free its head enough to hit the reptile with sharp, long, straight horns. Under the weight of the python, the gazelle collapsed to the ground. But when the snake tried to swallow the opponent, the ungulate jerked and pierced the snake's head with both horns right through. The gazelle suffered critical internal injuries from the crushing embrace of the python's rings. Broken ribs cut the heart and lungs with fragments, so it is difficult to call such a result an unambiguous victory. However, the gazelle did not become a dinner for the python either. Rather, she is the last victim of the snake. It's pretty scary to watch a python still alive, trying to get rid of the horns that pierced right through it. And the researchers are in no hurry to help him. And that's right, because in agony, the reptile would definitely attack them. His jerky movements, filled with pain, frighten and make him treat diesels with great respect. It's not just prey that can only run away from danger. There are serious fighters who will try to take the enemy with them, even if they themselves will not be able to get out of trouble. Even if the python manages to get itself off the horns that the gazelle's horns have become, it won't last long. Pay attention to exactly where the fatal blow when the horns occurred. The gazelle pierced the snake's head. The brain is not damaged, but the neck is pierced. The lower jaws are crushed. Such wounds will definitely kill the reptile. And if she still survives them, she will lose the opportunity to hunt effectively. Hunger will take away the rest of your strength, and the snake itself will turn into prey. Who do you sympathize with more in this situation? The gazelle that managed to fatally wound the enemy, but was too badly damaged, so it will never return to its native herd? Or the python, who was unlucky enough to meet a really strong opponent who knows just how to use its weapons right? Apparently, this white tiger decided to hit on the lioness, but she did not appreciate the attentions, and responded with a series of powerful blows with clawed paws on the muzzle. The tiger is bigger and more massive, but he had to not just fall behind, but run in panic from an angry cat. and we will show you other cases of unexpectedly fierce resistance in the natural world. Action from the first second. The lion furiously attacked the competitor and grabbed his head. But this was a big mistake. The aggressor underestimated the enemy. Even from a recumbent position, the second lion managed to repel the enemy. He withstood the first attack, was able to dodge the most dangerous blows, and then overwhelmed the aggressor by throwing him over his shoulder. And it looks like a judo move. The lion who started the fight clearly did not expect such knowledge of martial arts from his opponent. Now the aggressor is lying on the ground and trying his best to avoid terrible wounds and fatal blows. The mane protects the lion's throat from bites, but any defense has its own strength limit. A terrible roar is heard throughout the area, while the enraged lions inflict crushing blows on each other and dig their claws and fangs into the opponent's body, head, and limbs. Pay attention to how they combine bites with the use of their hind legs. This is possible only during a fight in the stalls, when both opponents are on their backs or on their sides. Pulling the opponent towards him, the aggressor begins to tear him with the claws of his hind paws. It was the only chance to escape, because the lion, skilled in defense, is already on top, already biting his paw, beating and reaching with his fangs to the throat of the aggressor. The one who started the fight is forced to go on the defensive. But the lion, who managed to defend himself after the first terrible attack, does not want to be left with a broken jaw or without an eye. Therefore, he releases the aggressor. When the lions realize that they will not be able to finish the fight quickly in this position, they jump up and begin to glare at each other and intimidate with growls. How coolly, fiercely, and effectively the lion was able not only to fight back against the aggressor, but also to pile on him deserves your like, doesn't it? A river otter was dozing peacefully on the beach when it was spotted by a jaguar. It is one of the most formidable predators of the New World and has a 4 times more powerful bite than a lion. The jaguar rushes at the otter and squeezes it with its paws, hoping for an easy victory. But an unpleasant surprise awaits him. It seems that the otter is a living liquid. Even trapped by the claws and fangs of the enemy, she reacts instantly, twists, and bites the jaguar right in the nose. This is a sensitive area on the cat's body, its pain point. An otter bite may not be particularly dangerous, but it causes terrible pain. Shocked by such a rebuff, the jaguar releases its prey. And relatives are already rushing to help the otter, so the spotted predator has to retreat. Both lions and hyenas often feed on carrion and look for it at the first opportunity. This is reasonable because such a meal does not need to be procured. It is already ready. And although the quality of the meat is not the best, the predator does not expend energy on its prey, so it wins. But when these lions found a huge carcass for their lunch, they did not take into account whose territory they were really in. This reservoir has already been captured by a hippopotamus, and contacting him wasn't the best idea. Hippos are aggressive territorial animals, which is atypical for herbivores. In general, these are unusual creatures. They feed only on plant food, but have terrible fangs as long as an adult man's arm. Such teeth are needed by hippos not for the sake of hunting, but in order to loosen the soil. But the fangs can also bite the lion's torso without problems because the hippopotamus has such a powerful bite and a huge jaw that the beast is able to sink motorboats. The lions clearly underestimated this beast, or thought that the lack of aggression towards the hippopotamus guaranteed its loyalty. The predators were wrong anyway. A hippopotamus can be provoked not even by an attack, but by the very presence of a predator. A giant weighing about 3 tons attacks a whole group of lions, and the predator simply scatter in different directions. Perhaps they could pose a danger to such an opponent, but the hippopotamus would take 1 lioness at least with him. And the pride does not need these losses, and the lions are retreating. That same night, unsuspecting hyenas approach the carcasses. It is rare when these vicious and cruel predators are pitied. Well, now is just such a case. The hippopotamus seems to appear out of the ground and scatter the hyenas that dared to disturb it. The hippopotamus does not need a carcass that could be gnawed by scavengers here, but he simply does not allow carnivorous animals to feed here on principle. It seems that hyenas deliberately behave as modestly as possible and show the hippo that they are not going to attack it. But the giant does not care. If he decided to leave the predators hungry, then they will not see that food, at least on his territory. The springbuck is one of the fastest animals in the world. The peculiarity of this type of ungulates is the ability to move with sharp and incredibly fast jumps. A springbuck can literally jump over a predator and calmly run on. However, these animals should not have neglected the lions. Although these predators are significantly inferior to them in speed, they are able to coordinate their actions well and hunt in well-coordinated teams, in which some lionesses distract, some attack directly, and the male lion covers his girlfriends. The springbucks allow the lionesses to surround themselves. Ungulates underestimated the agility of the predatory cats. One of them ran against the herd. Those ungulates that were right in front of her were too fast and easily broken away. But the lioness did not attack them, but to those springbucks who were immediately behind. The optimal timing of the attack allowed one of the lionesses to get within striking distance. The ungulate did not expect this, but demonstrated its unique maneuverability. However, the springbuck did not manage to leave. At a key moment, he stumbled and fell right in the front of the predator. The herbivore jumped to its feet with lightning speed, but the lioness is too agile to miss such a chance. He easily knocks the victim down and finishes her off. Pay attention to how the lion jumps on the prey, as if he is bragging to the lionesses that he can also jump very high. They didn't seem to appreciate this. What do you think? This bear cub is no longer small at all. He weighs like a young wolf. However, it is still far from reaching its maximum dimensions. Although the teenage bear already walks separately from its mother, explores the world, and even hunts, the female still looks after her offspring. However, the bear cub was alone now and noticed a lynx. In other circumstances, the cat would hide from such a stranger, but the den with kittens is very close. The bear cub does not know who it is dealing with and attacks the lynx, which distracts the insatiable predator to protect its cubs. I mean, this is some real drama, isn't it? Fortunately, the fight between these ferocious beasts looks more comical than cruel. The lynx and the bear exchange powerful blows, roll on the ground, bite each other, and try to strangle each other, but none of them really gets any serious harm done. Even a young teenage bear is 1.5 times more massive than a lynx. His thick layer of subcutaneous fat protects him from the fangs and claws of a cat that cannot effectively squeeze the throat. On the other hand, the bear is still quite inexperienced, and the lynx easily avoids serious hits from his blows even in close combat. The agility of the lynx and the strength of the bear seem to balance each other out. And as a result, the opponents turn out to be absolutely equal. Moreover, although the fight lasted for several minutes, neither the lynx nor the bear has any wounds. It is not known how this clash would have ended if it had lasted any longer. But an angry bear arrived at the sounds of the struggle. A huge female is 10 times more massive than a lynx and can literally drive an opponent into the ground. If she catches him, of course. But the cat breaks out of the bear's embrace with lightning speed and easily hides from less agile opponents. It remains to be hoped that the kittens will also be safe. However, this will be a lesson for the bear cub. Even if the opponent is smaller, this does not mean that it will be easy to cope with him. If not for the mother's help, the lynx could still defeat the enemy, especially since he posed a real threat to her kittens. And how do you think this duel would have ended if it hadn't been for the intervention of the bear? Answer in the comments. We are interested to know your opinion. The polar bear is the largest land predator on the planet. On his hind legs, he will rise to such a height that he will be able to look into the windows of the second floor. With one blow, such a predator is able to break the spine of a reindeer. This hungry bear walks along the icebound shore in search of food. The beast knows about its strength and immediately rushes into battle as soon as it notices potential prey. Polar bears literally take large seals out of the water. attack elephant seals, which weigh more than 1 ton on the social network, swim well, and run fast, despite their huge mass. Do you think the bear victim has no chance, no matter who she is? Probably. The predator also has such a high opinion of himself, but does not really know who he is dealing with. The walrus is a very dangerous animal. If a polar bear weighs a little less than half a ton, but a walrus weighs twice as much, that is more than a ton. In principle, the predator successfully copes with sea elephants, which are even larger and more massive. But here the bear has a serious obstacle on the way to a hearty lunch. Fangs. The huge teeth with which the walrus can split small ice floes are weapons that should not be neglected whatsoever. A very thick layer of subcutaneous fat of the walrus will withstand the first few blows of even an adult bear, and then the fangs of the pinniped will open the predator and pierce its belly. When the bear realized that such a result was waiting for him, he retreated. The walrus repelled the predator's attack and dived under the water. There he also has an advantage in maneuverability due to the streamlined shape of his body. As a result, the predator not only had to retreat, but also run to a more reliable and thick ice.